Welcome to Taxidermy Truths, where we discuss the ins and outs of not only the taxidermy process, but the influences on the hunting community as a whole. With over 25 years in the wildlife and taxidermy industry, I host open conversations with artists, experts, and industry giants. From sustainable utilization to shipping rates, we dig into the reality of the experience after the safari and hear real stories worth remembering. Hi there, my name is Doug Cocroft and welcome to Taxidermy Truths. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to discuss something that is fundamental to every hunter out there, to every person that's ever hunted a beautiful animal and wants to have the taxidermy process completed successfully so that you can enjoy a beautiful mount on your wall, on a shelf, on a pedestal for years to come. Preservation directly after you have hunted your animal is key. It's simple enough, but too often it's a part of the process that is not given the level of importance that it should be. So I've summarized a couple of details to simplify and explain what the best processes are for correct preservation of your trophy once you've hunted that dream animal. Let's get started. All right. At number one, skin the animal properly. A sharp knife takes you a long way in making sure that the animal gets skinned cleanly. That blade is going to get used to remove the fat. It's going to get used to dice your skin, split lips, split the eyes, ears. Basically, open your skin up to allow penetration of salt, which is the primary medium used to stop bacterial decay in your skin. So from the start, skin it properly. Before you go on your hunt, contact your taxidermist and say, how would you like me to skin this for a pedestal mount, for a wall pedestal, for a flat skin, for a full mount? Plan before so that when it does come to skinning the animal, you're not trying to pick your cell phone up on the side of a hill to get reception, to phone a friend, to find out what the correct way to skin a full mount warthog is, or how do I skin for a wall pedestal mount. By the time you get there, you should have your knives prepared, know exactly how to skin your animal, so that when you skin it correctly, the following steps will ensure that you get a great quality skin. So there's your first step. Skin it properly. Part of skinning it properly is your planning. As they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So get your planning right. Point number two, wash your skin. So this is not a case of just giving it a light rinse. The blood that is attached to the skin, the dirt that is attached to the skin after you have skinned the cape off the animal, off the carcass, that blood has the potential to allow bacteria to breed. Clean it off. Clean the hair of the trophy. Rinse it thoroughly. When you rinse the inside of the skin, not the hair side, the leather side, rinse it off and actually get involved and scrape off the blood and the tissue. Clean all of that excess matter off, because that just means that when you do apply the salt penetrates the skin better, and you'll end up with a much better quality skin for taxidermy at the end of the day. This is one of the steps that we cannot reiterate enough, because when you clean your skin, you just increase your chance of success. So take the time to clean your skin well. Point number three, drip dry. Now, once you've cleaned your skin is naturally going to be fully hydrated and wet. We would recommend hanging the skin over a wooden beam or a plastic beam. Do not hang your skin over a farm fence. Do not hang it over a steel pole, because that skin has blood, and blood reacts with metal and creates rust. And you will end up with rust lines on your skin, and that ruins great taxidermy. So drip dry the skin. The idea is to hang it over the wooden beam or plastic beam and almost squeeze out the excess water. We want the salt to penetrate the skin and we don't want the salt to become saturated by excess water. So take the time after washing to drip dry it properly to get that excess water out. It will still be damp. Think of taking a kitchen cloth. You wet it under the tap, you pick it up, you wring it out. The consistency of that cloth, that wetness is what you're trying to achieve for a perfect skin. Step number 4. Once you've wrung out the water, now comes the hard work. Now you've got to get the salt into that skin. Now, I've seen guys skin and wash and clean, and it all comes to a grinding halt when they don't salt it correctly. A couple of don'ts when it comes to salting your skins. Don't just lie the cape or flat skin, hair down on a concrete slab and empty a bag of salt on top of it. That's not salting. That's only going to, once again, increase your chance of failure of that skin in tanning. First and foremost, a layer of salt on the floor or on wooden pallets. Wooden pallets are the best because air travels under the wooden pallet and up through the skin and helps with the drying process. So first a layer of salt, then you take your cape, back skin, flat skin, and you lie it hair down on top of that salt. You then press the skin into the salt, knowing that the salt is now going to penetrate from the hair side as well. You then empty salt onto the skin in small patches. You empty a bit of salt onto that patch and then you rub that salt into the skin. We want the salt to penetrate that skin, so give it the best chance. Use a non-iodized salt. We would always suggest coastal salt as opposed to a pan salt. One of the brands in South Africa is a salt called Bots salt. Please don't use it. It comes from pans, and more we have seen that pan salt causes skins to go a pink color. So take non-iodized coastal salt and in small patches rub that salt into the skin. Really grind it in. When you put the salt around the head, take salt in your hands and rub it into the lips, the eyes, the ears. Make sure that you get salt into every corner, because those small corners that you miss is where the bacteria is going to capitalize. And when you leave that skin alone, bacteria degradation is going to start immediately. When it goes into tanning, you're going to end up with a skin with a bald patch. And unfortunately, quite often, skins like zebra, nyala, bushbuck, which all have unique markings, cannot easily be replaced. So take the time to do the preservation properly in the beginning, and salting is critical. So you've laid your base layer of salt, hair down on top of the salt, and now you've covered your skin and worked that salt into the skin. This is the best possible process to this point. Points to consider: cutting and scraping. Thicker skins will require dicing of the hide in order to get the salt to penetrate. Scraping is the removal of excess fat. Let me give you some examples. The mane of a zebra has a thick layer of fat that runs down the mane. When you open up that beautiful zebra flat skin, you'll see the fat in the middle under the mane. Take the time to cut that fat out until you can see the tips of the mane. Don't go too deep, otherwise the mane will literally slip through the skin. But cut and scrape that fat away. Remove it so that you can get better penetration of salt. If you do hunt a giraffe, think of how thick the skin is. Dice that skin. You can't split the skin or trim it thinner for salt penetration. So dice it in a checkerboard sort of style so that the salt once again can penetrate. But you still have to push the salt into those crevices, into those cracks to ensure better penetration. So remember, cut and dice and scrape. It gives you a better outcome. This is obviously done before you put the skin into the salt. Next point. This is the one that so many people are really good at. Leave the skin alone. Don't fiddle with it. Do the job right first time, and then let it settle in the salt for up to 2 to 3 days. That salt will be doing its work. It will be drawing out the blood, the moisture, and creating an environment that bacteria ceases to work. I keep using the word bacteria. So let me explain this. In the first 48 hours after you've shot your animal is when the most damage occurs on any skin. As a living animal, animals have an immune system that fight bacteria. When you hunt your animal, at that moment that that animal hits the floor, the immune system ceases to work. So we need to step in and replace the immune system with salt and good cleaning and good skinning. So to avoid hair slip on your valuable animals, make sure you follow the steps. Make sure that you make the effort. If you're hunting at an outfitter, spend time with the skinners, because these guys hold the destiny of your trophy in their hands. Make sure the salt being used is clean, non-iodized. Make sure that they take the time to get the salt into all the nooks and crannies, under the lips, under the jaw where the skin flaps, all of those areas where you might overlook salt. Make sure that's done right. And once that skin is in the salt and neatly covered, let the salt do its job. Next point, the drying period. So after 2 to 3 days of that skin being in the salt, either yourself or the outfitters would then remove that skin and shake off the excess saturated salt. There's no point leaving salt in that skin. I'm not saying brush it or groom that skin by any means, but shaking the salt off and dusting it off with your hand does the job. Take the excess saturated salt off, leave the active salt attached to the skin. That skin is now going to feel slightly clammy, but pliable. Once you feel it drying, now is the time to take that skin and neatly fold it. You fold the hair inside the skin, leather part outside. It means that the skin will travel better, and you're in a position where the final product will be so much better. Now that your skin is folded, it can be placed onto a drying shelf and left for collection by the taxidermist, or you could package it up and drop it at the taxidermist on your way through town. Drying shelves in outfitting establishments and on farms should always be off the ground. Air is your friend. The air movement around the skin itself is very important to maintaining a dry skin. Keep something in mind. Bacteria can only act in a wet environment. Once that skin is dry, there is no further degradation of that skin. The degradation of a skin from bacteria, hair slip, occurs in the first 48 hours after skinning. If you get it right in the beginning, you're going to have an incredible trophy in the end. So the preservation really is, it's the building block that every taxidermist needs to create beautiful taxidermy that lasts a long time. Tanning methods in South Africa are the same as tanning methods in the US. In the early 1900s, taxidermy in South Africa did go through a period where the tanning wasn't to the same standard as international tanning because of the availability of chemicals. In modern times with supply chains, we all use the same principal tanning methods. So very regularly, when there's hair slip, it can't be pointed back at the tannery because the methodologies are so similar. It's actually hard to create hair slip in the tanning process if the correct recipes and processes are followed. The damage in a skin is in place in the first 48 hours. So we need to reiterate again and again. If you really look after your trophy and you preserve it well in the beginning, you'll get a beautiful trophy in the end. Let me summarize very quickly for you. I'm going to read it off my list. Skin, wash, drip dry, salt, keep note of cutting, that's the cubes, and scraping to get rid of the fat. Leave it to dry. Once it's dried, fold it and store it well. It's not rocket science, but it is the key to incredible taxidermy. Thanks for your time. Taxidermy Truths is about spending time telling the good stories, helping people understand more about the taxidermy process, looking at how hunters can work better together to create beautiful memories that hang on your wall and get appreciated for many years to come. I look forward to chatting to you again soon and appreciate you as always. Thank you.